All right. Hello, and welcome to Connecting Tucson with Jaime Overturf, broadcasting from the Tucson Business Channel, a division of Mark Bishop Media, situated in the Stewart Title corporate offices on Broadway in Tucson, Arizona. Connecting Tucson is all about connecting our community, local businesses, and organizations to help our community grow and thrive. Today, we are talking to Leslie Bosch, the owner of Bosch Integrative Wellness, located right here in Tucson, Arizona. Leslie Bosch, PhD, is a developmental psychologist and a national board certified health and wellness coach. She originally hails from Denver, Colorado. We're not going to hold that against her, though, but moved to Tucson about 15 years ago to attend the University of Arizona. Dr. Bosch received her training as an integrative wellness coach from the Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine. Leslie helps busy professionals and entrepreneurs minimize their negative effects of stress so they can make a bigger impact without sacrificing their health, well-being, or personal relationships. In her downtime, she enjoys spending time with her husband and Chihuahua Kobe. Welcome, Leslie, and thank you so much for coming on Connecting Tucson and sharing about your business and yourself.
Well, thanks so much, Jaime, for the opportunity to be here. I really appreciate it and look forward to speaking with you.
Well, I'm sure our listeners are going to have fun because I, for one, can use some stress management. So let's just start off by letting our listeners know a little bit more about you, yourself, and your background.
Well, I think you did a really great job in your introduction, but, absolutely. I moved here about 15 years ago, and I came to get my PhD. And I met my husband, who, when I was taking a pre-algebra course in order to gear up for my PhD program.
College
so that was
sweethearts.
Cool. Yes, exactly. And I am happy to admit that I actually did get my PhD. It was quite a struggle and quite a trek. But
congratulations. That is no small feat. That is a large mountain.
Yes. And so I'm really thrilled about that. And yes, I'm a proud grandmother also. I could share that. And as you mentioned, yes, a little girl. She's about 2 years old. Unfortunately, she was born right before the pandemic hit, so I really haven't had that much time or opportunity to see her. But they grow so fast. It's been really fun.
Yeah, she's already 2.
Yep.
Can't not believe that. All right. So what got you interested in coaching and specifically like the health and wellness stressors?
Well, basically, like many Americans, I was working in a very demanding job, and I didn't really realize it at the time, but I was also mismanaging my stress. I really didn't even know that stress management was a thing. So I was doing all the basic stuff, working long hours, eating lots of junk food, not exercising, sleeping poorly, feeling tense, and, sort of arguing with my husband. And really, basically, I just wasn't having any fun.
Oh, it sounds familiar.
Yeah, I just really didn't realize it. But at the time, I was essentially trading my health and well-being and my relationship satisfaction for success in my career.
That makes sense. I think a lot, especially I would say small business owners, I think that itself is so stressful because we have to wear so many hats and we don't realize that we are sacrificing our health and stress. So yes, I 100% agree. Tell us about Bosch Integrated Wellness and why you started it.
Well, basically, thankfully, when I started to feel some of the wear and tear from mismanaging my stress, and I started to have some high blood sugars. I started to gain some weight. Again, as I mentioned, I was unhappy. So I started to look around for some answers, and that's really when I came across a lifestyle course offered through the Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine. And in taking the course, I learned about an integrative approach to health, which basically stresses the importance of 7 core areas of health. And as you can imagine, during the course, my job was essentially to clean up my act in each of these 7 core areas of health, which I did. And after several months of concerted effort, I began to feel better. And I was so excited about my results that I decided to take it to the next level and become a national board certified health and wellness coach. And then from there, I started my business and I started to help other people improve the quality of their lives as well.
Well, that is amazing. So you mentioned the 7 areas. Is that what the integrative approach actually is? It has the 7 areas, or is it just that specific program?
Right. An integrative approach to health really does focus on the interdependence of the 7 core areas, which are sleep, nutrition, movement, relationships, resiliency, spirituality, and environment. An integrative approach also recognizes the connection between the mind-body connection.
Okay.
So in other words, that our mind really is a powerful tool, really, that we can use to support our health. But a lot of times we tend to forget about our body and just run with our mind.
Oh, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It really does. It's clicked now. Okay. So what with those 7 core areas, they all have a relationship to stress. So how do you work with that with your clients? What does that look like?
Well, for me, you're right. The biggest change that I made was in the area of what they call resilience, really, which is the ability to manage effectively challenges and stresses in your life. And that's really where I sort of came up with my program, the Stress Reset program. But essentially, you can use all the 7 core areas of health as resources to support your stress management efforts.
Okay, and you just mentioned your program, the Stress Reset program. Can you dive more into details with that?
Sure. The Stress Reset program really it's a 90-day program that basically features 5 science-backed strategies that work together like a puzzle. Synergistically to give you the support that you need. Essentially, the program helps you to manage, maintain an awareness of your stress levels, to manage your emotions, to employ your strengths and values, and to achieve and maintain a flow state, and basically to talk to yourself in ways that really support mental agility and emotional well-being.
Okay, that sounds very similar to like what a therapist would do. So I know sometimes people might confuse what coaching and therapy is. What is the difference? And what is the difference between coaching and an actual therapist then, I guess?
Well, yes, coaching can be confused with therapy, but therapy tends to focus more on healing the past, whereas coaching tends to focus more on moving towards the future. Okay. And with coaching, we pretty much assume that the person is well, whole, and functional, and that basically they just need some help, in this case, it would be up-leveling the skills that they're using to manage their stress.
Okay. And why should someone hire a coach? And when would you recommend somebody actually seek a coach out to get some assistance?
Well, I love that you say the when part. I'm going to handle that first.
Okay.
Basically, I am an advocate for coaching, and the research suggests that the most successful people in the world have coaches. So if you really want to improve the odds of your success and boost your results, then I encourage you to get a coach as soon as possible. Because coaching is really a very powerful tool to help you achieve the goals and success that you seek.
Excellent.
So coaches can help you with a lot of things. So for instance, coaches can help you to define your goals.
Oh.
Now, a lot of times we know that we want something, but we're not really sure what it is, and we're really not sure how to go about getting it. So a coach can really help you figure out how to define those things and start getting some traction.
Okay.
A coach can also add some accountability to your life, and this has been demonstrated to be one of the most critical pieces to success when it comes to achieving your goals. So no matter what you do, you want to try and get some accountability in your life. But often, if you rely on friends and family, or especially if you rely on yourself, it's very easy to let go of your commitment and for your goal pursuits to fall to the bottom of your list. So a coach really helps you maintain that sense of front and center, top priority.
Yes, the accountability is a huge piece. I know even if you have a friend, sometimes your friends go lax and say, oh, we're going to have this day and we're just going to do whatever we're going to do. It's like a cheat day, I guess is what they call it. But you can't have that when you're trying to really focus and reduce some of the stress, because I think one day could actually maybe offset that, and then you're kind of back to square one. You mentioned your program is a 90-day program. Do you do more than just that program, or what other products and services do you offer, and how does that look?
basically, as a coach, I can help you to achieve whatever goals you're interested in achieving. A lot of times, as I mentioned, people come to me to get started because they're having difficulty with their stress, and it's affecting the quality of their life. For instance, as I mentioned, they might be having difficulty sleeping, or they might be having difficulty concentrating, these types of things. And so they're looking for some assistance. But people come to me for a variety of reasons. And coaches are great to employ when you're in a challenging time and you really need some additional support.
And do you meet daily, weekly, monthly, or is that catered to your clients?
Absolutely, catered to the client. That's one of the most important things also to understand about coaching, which is the client is really driving the goals and how we operate. Very rarely in your life do you have a place where people are saying, okay, how would you like to proceed? What would you like to talk about? What's important to you? And how can I help you get there? So that's also another nice thing about a coach.
I know. Like I said, I need some stress management in my life, so that's something we will talk about later. But we had spoken previously when we did our initial one about the negative effects of stress and how they manifest and how we can recognize them in ourselves. What do they look like?
Well, basically, you might experience that you're feeling pressured and overwhelmed. You might find that your self-care is slipping to the bottom of the list, that you seem to be taking care of everyone and everything but yourself. Again, as I mentioned, you might feel that you're irritable and that you find yourself sort of lashing out at loved ones in ways that you really don't enjoy.
Right.
You might find that you feel all alone, like no one really understands what you're going through. You might find yourself being incredibly busy, frantically trying to get everything done, but really ultimately fearing that, you're headed for burnout because there's just no way you can sustain this. You might feel that your performance is slipping a bit. You might, again, find that you're sleeping fitfully because you're unable to turn your mind off. You might find yourself stress eating. You might find yourself missing out on quality time with friends and family because you're distracted and exhausted. And you might find that you have physical symptoms as well. You might be getting tension headaches. You might have a stiff neck. You might feel pains in your stomach. So these are some of the things that you might be experiencing if stress is becoming, if stress levels are rising.
Well, you just listed a whole bunch of mine, so that's decent. So, what's a strategy that you recommend for anyone dealing with stress right now, and how does that look?
Well, one of the things that I like to talk about or to share is really self-compassion.
Okay.
And self-compassion really basically means that you give yourself this sort of kindness and consideration and care that you would give a friend when they are also going through a difficult time or suffering or really sort of noticing something about themselves that they don't like. And you can bet that when you're stressed, you're feeling inadequate in some way, like you're just not up to the task. This in contrast to what a lot of people do, which is really harsh self-criticism, beating themselves up, continuing to drive themselves forward, trying to muscle through or push through.
Okay. That self-compassion is hard for people, though. I mean, that does not come naturally. We want to try to help others, but when we're trying to help ourselves, I think it's easier said than done, and that's where a coach can be very helpful in keeping you accountable and actually showing your worth is what I would think, and helping others doing that.
Yes, and self-compassion is something, it's a skill that can be cultivated, and there are practices that you can do in an effort to develop your ability to be compassionate toward yourself.
Okay. So what does your ideal client look like? What would that look like for you?
Well, essentially, my ideal client is somebody who's motivated to make a change.
Okay.
Typically, they're dealing with a stressful situation, and they're looking for support because they want to make the process more efficient and effective, and maybe even fun, right? Because we know change can be challenging, and going through difficult times can be very unpleasant. So having someone along who can sort of be a pal and cheer you along on your journey is good. Many times, they are looking really, basically, it's a good idea to just bring on board an expert rather than trying to go it alone and piece together solutions for yourself.
Okay. And we had talked previously about it's all client-driven, but you also do group sessions as well, correct?
Yes. I do group sessions as an alternative to one-on-one sessions. This provides a different experience for folks. They have the opportunity to meet other people who are like them, like-minded people who are also committed to making changes in their life, and also know that other people struggle to make changes and struggle in their lives as well.
I think that's very important because sometimes, like you said, we do feel all alone and we might feel like we're the only ones that are having this issue, and it might stop us from reaching out. And especially coming off this 2-year pandemic where we've been isolated, I think it's very important to let people know that it is okay to seek assistance and to seek a coach and get that mindset changed. So very, very interesting. If you're just tuning in, you are listening to Connecting Tucson with Jaime, where we focus on connecting our community, local businesses, and organizations to help our community grow and thrive. As your local insurance professional for all of your insurance needs, I know how important it is to make a new and lasting connection in our own community. You never know how a connection is going to create that spark or pull you in a unique direction or help you meet someone that could ultimately help you. If you are a small business owner or involved in a community project and you would like to be featured on the show, please feel free to give me a call. All of my information is on the Tucson Business Channel. Just click on Connecting Tucson with Jaime. I would love to hear from you. Right now, we're talking with Dr. Leslie Bosch, the owner of Bosch Integrated Wellness. And I had to admit, I was really confused on what you did specifically until we sat down and spoke, because there are, I guess, some stigmas along it. Or not stigmas, but just confusion. I did not know the difference between a coach and a therapist. And I'm sure you probably have people come across misconceptions. What are some common misconceptions that you come across from your clients or just in the public in general?
Well, in many respects, the biggest, I guess you could call it a misconception, is just not understanding that a coach exists as a tool that you can use to help you get where you want to go. Okay. I think another misconception would be that basically this sort of desire to ask for help, actually, to slow down and recognize that, you know what, I think maybe it's time for me to up-level my game or to learn some new skills. I think this can also be really challenging for people to recognize, I don't need to keep struggling on like this. I actually can do something to improve the quality of my life. And a lot of times it's just hard to figure out what that something is once you've identified that, yeah, I think I can and I think I want to. So I think these can be challenges. And then also just to find a coach that you feel that's qualified and that you can trust. I mean, again, this is always a challenge sometimes because as with therapy, working with a coach, the relationship is a critical piece. You need to feel that you connect with the person. You need to feel that you trust their expertise. You need to believe that they can help you, that you can do it, and that they can help you do it.
That being said, you just mentioned there are a lot of coaches out there. So what sets you apart from other coaches, and why should someone choose Bosch Integrated Wellness?
Well, I think that's a great question. I like to think that what sets me apart really is the level of my training. As a developmental psychologist, I have over 15 years of experience understanding how people change. And for me, I'm always looking at what's going on for an individual from the aspect that throughout our life, we go through different phases of our life. And so there are different developmental challenges that are there for us to tackle at various times in our life. And so I think having that understanding is very helpful because a lot of times I can sort of help clients cut to the chase with regard to what it is that they're grappling with. And then also having studied a lot of the best practices for bringing about change, I think this is also another way that I can help clients very quickly begin to orient to the tasks that they need to be engaging in so that they can move themselves along the process. It can be very easy to get mired and stuck in these developmental challenges.
Well, I can tell you're very passionate about doing all of this coaching for your clients. What is it you like best about it, though?
Well, honestly, of course, the best is really when you see clients blossom, when you see them take off, when you see them get the things that they want. A lot of times when clients come, they are feeling, again, very stuck, very confused, very frustrated. And then once they start to get traction and start moving towards their goals, and they start to sort of let go of all the things that are holding them back, it's really just so wonderful to see them take flight.
Yes, finding someone with their wings going up, I think that's great. If you can share it, what is one success story that you remember the most or that you're most proud of?
Well, there are so many clients that have, had successes, but I have one client that I like to share just because her story is really sort of very dramatic.
Okay.
When we started working together, it was just after the pandemic hit, and she had traveled to Uzbekistan for her job. So basically, she was quarantined there for 6 months.
Oh, my goodness.
Before she was able to get back
extreme.
home. Yes. And as you can imagine, her stress levels were through the roof. But she worked the stress relief strategies like a champ, and she pulled through beautifully. And as if that wasn't enough, when she got home, she basically found that she'd lost everything. She'd lost her job, her apartment, and even her boyfriend. So basically, we made a plan to rebuild her life, a plan for finding a place for her to live, a job, and a new boyfriend. And as she worked the plan, of course, I was there as a source of accountability, somebody that she could rely on, a thought partner that could help her practice the stress management strategies, troubleshoot difficulties, and celebrate her successes along the way. And today, she's living her dreams more than she ever could have imagined. She's married. They're pregnant with their first child. Oh. They've bought a new home, and she's been promoted to the director of marketing in her organization, and they've even got a new pet, which has been for them like a lifelong dream.
Oh, my goodness.
She is rocking it.
So she not only worked the program overseas, obviously via Zoom or phone calls, I'm assuming is how you did that. She did it again coming back home. So it's not just the 90 days. You're there for them afterwards should they need it.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's wonderful. And they can set up, if they want to do like monthly check-ins just to keep going. Is that how that works?
Exactly.
Perfect. All right. So what are some other challenges you've helped some clients overcome, like promotions or whatnot, so we can let our listeners know how you've helped some of your clients and maybe something will trigger a light bulb in their head?
Yeah, well, so I've helped clients deal with stressful situations. So for instance, a lot of people are struggling to deal with the ever-expanding work demands. It's just like it never ends, right? So they are a lot of times struggling with this.
Corporate America keeps wanting you to do more and more and more and more for less and less and less, it seems.
Exactly. I've helped clients who had difficulty sleeping. I've helped clients who have a new health crisis. I helped one client who just got a breast cancer diagnosis. I've helped clients pass high-stakes exams. I've helped them make very difficult decisions, like whether or not to divorce or to move or to get a new job. I've helped people deal with conflict. Conflict is very stressful, so to help them resolve that and find new ways to sort of try and manage that. I've helped clients adjust to new leadership positions. I've helped them negotiate a raise. I've helped them deal with the anxiety associated with presenting. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, number one fear is public speaking. I've helped them manage the stress of dealing with a difficult boss, of caring for sick parents, of transitioning to retirement, and ultimately, really, one of the biggest stressors, which is prioritizing self-care.
Okay, that is a lot to pack in one little package. So some of those, do you do the 90-day program with all of them, or is it just like for the raise, for example? Is that something where you do it just maybe for a month or so, or are you really stressing that stress reset program for the 90 days?
Well, people can come in, no matter how we end up working, I will be showing them the strategies and helping them to incorporate them. How long it takes for us to do that depends, again, on their situation. Everything in the program is incredibly individualized and personalized. So
let me ask you this. My listeners, they may be on the fence about, should I ask for a coach? Should I not? Do I really need the assistance? They may think they can overcome the obstacles on their own and afraid to ask for help. What would you say to them right now?
Well, I think for starters, like, just give me a call and let's just talk about what's going on. And let's just see what we can figure out together that might be a good solution for you, a great way for you to move forward. I think sometimes we spend a lot of time, and this is part of the change process. A lot of times it does take a while to figure out that you actually have a problem.
Yes.
And that needs addressing. And then, of course, you can spend a lot of time on the fence, wondering, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I. You can spend like years doing that.
The yo-yo.
Yes. Another part of the change process is really then beginning to look around at resources that are available to you. And then another part really is when you start to get in action. So a lot of times I would encourage you basically to just cut through once you realize that you have a problem that you might want to deal with, and then just cut through the should I, shouldn't I, and make a call and find out if this would be right for you.
Wonderful. And I know you said you started your business right before the pandemic hit and COVID. How has starting a business and learning all of this other stuff affected you, and how are you overcoming those obstacles of becoming a business owner when you were in corporate America to owning your own business?
Yeah, that has really been a challenge. That transition from being in corporate America, where basically they dictate everything for you,
right,
and you basically show up and get it done, right? When you're an entrepreneur, it's completely different because everything is wide open and nobody is dictating anything. You have to sort of figure out how to begin to identify what you need, to begin to get the resources in place, to begin to get the self-discipline in place, to set the things for yourself to do and to actually do them, and then even to evaluate and decide, like, how is it going? And you have to keep doing that day in, day out, day in, day out. Nobody is really there to help you.
And that is so true. As my own business owner, I knew when I first came in, there was so much that we had to get through, all of the red tape. And just even opening the doors took, I don't know, a monumental feat to be able to make that happen. And then COVID hit. Boom. How did COVID change your approach to, I guess, coaching your clients?
Well, for me, in a way, it sort of was a really good fit because obviously you're talking about wellness and obviously you're talking about stress management. So there were a lot of opportunities for me to begin to offer programming, presentations, this type of thing for people around town where I could. And also a lot of people really did go online. So this whole telemedicine thing sort of became more mainstream. So people were more willing to get on a call with you, especially a Zoom call where you can actually see the person and, be willing to take this, see if this could work for them, and then finding that it does work and that it can be very helpful rather than having to see somebody in person in your town. So now you're more free to look for experts, across the country.
Okay. And you just mentioned the telemed, which I was going to get into. There are so many apps out there right now, so many different, I guess, strategies that are trying to talk to people and getting them to talk to a person. What's the difference between the apps that are out there saying, hey, you need to have a coach or a therapist versus what you're doing?
I'm not sure what you mean about the apps. You mean a lot of times there are apps, a lot of health apps out there, you mean, that are helping you?
Yes. So there's a couple apps that are out there that basically they actually connect you to a therapist or a coach, and you get on that, and it's like a one-time thing. I'm not sure if that's something that you've offered or what's different about those types of programs versus yours?
Well, I think a lot of times those apps tend to, I think those apps can serve like as a platform where people can actually find therapists and coaches.
Okay.
And then I know there are some apps where you can actually get coaching, but usually the coaching is like via text. I know there are platforms out there, wellness platforms, that also sort of provide programming and sort of queue stuff up for you to go through on your own. So basically, my program is different in that I'm offering that one-to-one service, that interaction with me, and that tailored approach to what's going on.
Versus the cookie cutter apps that are out there that might not
Right. Be able to individualize.
Yeah, individualize or actually help you with what you need. So in my opinion, having someone with that one-on-one with the accountability is very important, because that app you might just set it to the wayside and you might not get it. And then you're not getting the accountability that we spoke of at the beginning of this podcast. So, all right. Well, there's no shame in asking for help, but is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you would like to let our listeners know?
Well, I could say a little bit more about self-compassion if that's interesting.
Absolutely.
If you think that might be valuable.
Yes, let's dig into it. Self-compassion.
So self-compassion really essentially has 3 parts.
Okay.
And the first part really is about mindfulness. So the importance around self-compassion is really the ability to pay attention to how you're feeling and to notice when you really are in a moment of you're uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times people will want to do 2 things with that. They'll want to either sort of stuff it and try and turn a blind eye and say, no, I'm fine, sort of numb, right? Mm-hmm. Or they might actually sort of they throw themselves sort of into it, and they kind of they get carried away with their feelings, and they sort of then engage in perhaps unhealthy behavior that they later regret. So the first part about mindfulness is really to be able to stop and say that this is a moment of suffering, that this is unpleasant, that this is painful, that this is not something really that I want or that I'm enjoying, right?
You have to look into yourself.
Right. You have to be self-aware, right? And then the second component of self-compassion really is about common humanity. And this is really important because this is where you remind yourself that you're not the only one who's having a difficult time, that other people are suffering similarly, or other people are struggling in a similar way, right? Like with the pandemic, that was one of the things, perhaps the global nature of it, was we could really understand that everyone across the world was really struggling to figure out how to cope with this crisis, right? It was clear that we are not alone, right? So usually when something is going on in your life, you can tend to feel that you're the only one who's having a difficult time. And when we tend to feel that we are alien, right, that we are the only one, then this is, again, very stressful for the self. So it's really important to remember that, no, other people are having a difficult time too. Other people feel inadequate. Other people are being hard on themselves. Other people are falling down on their goals. Other people are struggling, right? And then the third piece really is, again, to remember that self-kindness. So this is where you want to say to yourself, okay, may I be kind to myself? May I be patient? May I mostly ask yourself, how can I do something that will help me to get where I want to go? So for instance, if I'm feeling stressed, I can ask myself, what are some things that I could do that would be kind to myself, healthy, helpful, right? So it would be, could I eat a healthy snack? Or could I talk to a friend? Or could I take a nap? Or could I take a walk in nature? Or could I read a book? Or could I dance to some music? But something positive. What can I do right now to help ground and center myself? So essentially, self-compassion, you can take a self-compassion break throughout the day and really even say to yourself, okay, this is a moment of suffering. I'm not alone. And what can I do to be kind to myself and take care of myself right now?
That is amazing. And I'm sure people struggle with the self-compassion because, like we said, we don't like to pat ourselves on the back and it's a go, go, go type of society. What do you find is the hardest element of self-compassion, or that people struggle with the most? Is it the self-awareness? Is it the humanity portion?
I think it can be all of them, but okay. I do think that self-awareness is really challenging. This is why mindfulness practices or meditation can be so helpful, because they really can help us to catch sight of ourselves. As you mentioned, we live in a very outwardly focused go, go, go society, and very rarely do we actually stop and turn inward and take stock of what's happening for us in the moment. And then also it's sometimes very hard to make that a priority Because a lot of times we'll say, no, what I'm feeling doesn't matter. I need to deal with what the other person is feeling, what the other person needs. And so basically, ultimately, you're really trying to find some balance, right? You're looking for some mutuality where what you need and what they need are somehow both taken into account, where everything is not happening just at your expense.
Okay, and you mentioned that there were some practices that you can do throughout the day, like meditation to help you become self-aware. What are some other practices that you recommend or could advise?
Well, certainly if you want to cultivate more self-compassion, one of the things, as I mentioned, the self-compassion break. So you can do that throughout the day. Mm-hmm. Another thing you can do is to write a letter to yourself as if you were writing to a dear friend. And then you set the letter aside for a little while, and then you come back and you read the letter, and you actually try to absorb the kind words as you would as if they were coming from somebody that you appreciated and admired, and allow that to really soothe you and, basically encourage you and inspire you to keep on going with your aspirations.
Oh, yes. That is hard to do. I never thought of the letter. That is a unique way to, I guess, not only be self-aware, but also give yourself some self-love. And I never thought about it that way.
Yes, and another one I'll tell you very quickly, which is basically every time you feel yourself being really mean to yourself, you need the self-awareness to notice. So you might write down those thoughts and then think, well, what would I say to a friend? And then write down those thoughts and then basically say those thoughts to yourself so that you can begin to change that harsh inner critic's voice into the voice of somebody who would be more kind and caring and compassionate. And the truth of the matter is people really do think that this is the best way to get the most from themselves by whipping themselves, as it were, into shape. And research has demonstrated clearly that this simply is not true. You get much further, like they say, right? Mm-hmm. What is it? Catch more flies with honey?
Yep.
Than you do with this harshness. So if you really want to be successful in your life, then self-compassion is a strategy that will serve you well.
Excellent. So what is the best way for someone to get a hold of you should they have their interest piqued? Phone, website? What's the best way?
The best way is to just really jump on my website. You can book a call there. Right at the top, right there, my calendar, so we can talk about how I might be able to help you or get you in the right direction. And also, I wanted to let you know that in the program notes, I did provide a guide about self-compassion that your listeners can use to download a guide that can help them with the things that we talked about.
Excellent. And what can we expect that first call to look like? And is that like a free consultation call?
Absolutely. It's a 20-minute free consultation in which basically I'll hear about what's going on for you, and then basically we'll think together about what would be a great way for you to move forward.
Excellent. Excellent. Again, thank you for coming on the show, Leslie. I sure learned a lot today, and I know that I need some self-awareness and self-love, as I'm sure some of my listeners do as well. That is all for Connecting Tucson, Jaime, here at the Stuart Title Studios. If you liked the show, please let us know. You can connect or go to the Tucson Business Channel, a division of Mark Bishop Media, to connect with Bosch Integrative Wellness, https://boschintegrativewellness.com. You can also get the link off the website and go check her out. As always, do not be afraid to step out of your comfort zone, make a new connection. You never know where it's going to lead, or someone may be able to assist you. Until next time, this is Jaime Overturf with Farmers Insurance. Keep on making unique connections, Tucson, and have a fabulous day.